Hi everyone. It's good to be here.
Hello, Baret.
It looks very cold where you are. It's Cyprus is like 22 degrees, 21 degrees during the day, so it's nice and warm, and about 15 degrees at nighttime. But are we talking about sub-zero temperatures where you are, Randy?
Oh yeah, it's about 20 below Celsius right now.
No. Oh, wow. You're handling it really well.
Oh God, yeah. I needed to get out today. I'll tell some stories later, but you guys take it from here for a little while, and then I'll catch up with you when I get back inside. Okay?
We'll warm the topics up, I'm sure.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Well, Baret reached out to me last week, middle of last week, just kind of out of the blue, really. We were doing some stuff on Facebook. Baret, you started a channel on Facebook too.
Yeah.
Bioactivator, I believe it's called.
Yeah, I mean, we've got something like 540 members, and it's kind of snowballing. It's a lot of people are showing interest. It's they're obviously feeling the frequency, the calling, and it's very interesting time, Williams. We all can feel the much needed change on our planet. And with me personally, everything works with self first, because that's what we're putting out there. And being sensitive, loving, and caring, and being kind, a bit like what Randy's doing as well. And I'm sure, like you, Randy, I mean, it's like feeling the pain, the anguish of our sentient brothers and sisters, and just holding that energy, and to give comfort as much as possible, because for some people the change, I see it very positive. It can be a bit traumatic at the beginning, because especially if you're very attached, so it's the ability to let go of the false illusion that has been around for my take thousands of years. So this false light is being replaced by something more real. And I'm having this incredible symbiotic relationship at the moment. And certainly I'm sure we're on the same page with you, Randy, but Randy's, and I meant William, because the two energies, whether we call it light or dark, or negative, positive, I'm not in the position to say they're the good guys, the bad guys. I'm trying to create an equal or equilibrium, shall we say, and that's keeping me in better stead with everybody from all walks of life, because we got to be careful with the judgments, because there's, yeah.
It's true. I hear this a fair bit on, like I'm still watching a lot of videos and a lot of different channels from a lot of different, for lack of a better term, realms, if you will. The political side of things, the spiritual side of things, the alien, exopolitics side of things. And do notice that in certain circles, especially, there's the labeling that goes on, good versus bad, good versus evil. I hear that a lot. And for some reason, it doesn't sit right with me. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I think you kind of, in what you just said, you kind of touched on it a little bit. It's like the moment we start putting labels on things, the more we put it in a box, and it's not necessarily, a beneficial thing to do, because then it limits us as well as whatever we put in the box.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to resonate on a higher frequency, we've got to drop those labels, because all it does, it creates separateness rather than, celebrating that divine oneness that we all are. and you know, and we don't have to be so defensive, you know, and take things too personally. So my personal take on this, my observation viewpoint has changed. So I see it from the eyes of other people and what are they seeing, and creating that incredible comfort zone where people feel elevated. And, you know, hence the biofeedback page, the way the activation works. You're leaving certain markers wherever you go, whether you're semi-conscious with it. I mean, I'd like to, I'm not saying I'm super conscious, but I'm very conscious of what I'm leaving behind. And what I want to leave behind is an energy where it lifts people. And I can honestly say, hand on heart, it's come to me of late. I'm 55 years old now, and I have no regrets about anything that I've done in my past. You know, it's part of the learning process, but I'm in a very comfortable place at the moment in terms of state of mind, because I'm enjoying the ride at the moment, because wherever I go, I'm leaving a very, very good footprint, and people are feeling it. So I can only share the magic on places like the bioactivation page, and with our beautiful talks with such beautiful people like yourself and Randy. So I'd just like to quickly take the opportunity to thank you both as well for being in this incredible circle, because we are certainly part of this great change. And I'm very blessed to have this opportunity, and very blessed to know you, William, because I just like the way you conduct yourself and how you put yourself out there. So, and especially my lovely brother, Randy, over there in the cold. I don't know when he's going to join us, but I'm sure he will at some point. He's
I'm
smiling.
listening
So.
intently and hearing everything that I just resonate with so much, Baret. You know, you two guys are probably two of the most divine masculine, balanced feminine men that I know on earth. Like and that's what we have to get to, is that balance, right? And it has to come within to start with. The divine feminine had to rise, but not in a matriarchal manner. It had to rise within the male and the female.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. And, you know, as that happens, we move to a polar world, okay? A polar world always in my mind being a human construct. And that's what we're living in. We have heaven on earth, which is where we live. And then we have this world, this human construct. Some call it a globe. You can choose whatever you want, but it is a human construct, right? And in that realm, as William said earlier, he used the word realm. We are shifting. Like the human consciousness is changing to a more balanced, divine feminine, divine masculine reality. And that's what it is. And it's unconditional love. If we think about it, that's basically what God is too. It's just, you know, who would ever create this heaven on earth where we live and then have a world of man out of harmony with it? You know, that was just us. We just went out of balance. And now we are being responsible for that. These three men right here, and taking responsibility and saying, yeah, there's no bad guy because the bad guy's in me, or was.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really bad. He just was out of balance. So thank you. I'm about another 200 yards from the door, and then I'll be inside.
We look forward.
Well, pop in whenever you're ready, Randall. Baret and I will take it from here, and feel free to jump back in when you're ready.
Cheers.
Baret, I wanted to ask you as well, the actual choice of words for your Facebook title, you know, the group name, Bioactivator. How would you define that? Just so that it might help anyone else that, you know, comes across it as to what does that mean to you?
Well, let's take it from this point. everybody, whether it's words or pictures, everybody is interpreting information or labels based on their level of interpretation, because no two soul beings are the same. So the way they're observing words and frequencies or pictures, they're translating it based on their ability to siphon the information. So there is no right or wrong answer to this, and I'm not trying to get out of it or trying to define. I don't like to define things. It's not my job to say this is mine, and the magic begins when you share the activation. It's not like this is about community. This is about coming together. This is about diverging the energies together. And like Randy was saying, it's in not so many words, it's coming back into order, some kind of balance where humanity, whether we call it downgrade or we're being upgraded, doesn't really matter. But for me, what bioactivation does, it brings you to that place of solitude, calmness, and stillness, which that famous Rumi said, the body needs to move, like Randy loves moving, but the mind is still. So you're not going to look any different when you're activated. But some people might look at you differently. Some people might not look at you different, but that's all perfect. It's not like you're going to throw banners and, I'm not trying to sell anything here with the activation. So some people get a little bit alarmed that I'm going to start dressing things up and start selling products and, services, blah, blah, blah. This is about energy, vibration, and frequency. And when you connect to that state of consciousness, that heaven is not a place, it's a state of mind. It's like health and truth. Nobody has the right to own truth. Truth is for everywhere. It's everywhere around us. So it's like understanding the essence, the physicality, if on the etheric, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and unblocking. So the activation is really for the energy to flow. And once it flows, you'll be in a certain rhythm. You will be the conductor. But the conductor isn't going to control or manipulate. Because that order, that shape is giving way, giving path to a whole new level of existence. So it's a bridge. I would call it some kind of bridge where if you're ready for it and there's no pressure, if you feel the calling, you will cross without much effort. And I'm enjoying it. I mean, it's not like, I'm going out of my comfort zone. Some people say, how many hours a day do you meditate, or what do you do? And I'm like, I'm in the core. I don't change. I'm like this everywhere. It's not like I'm going to switch it off. It's not, I'm going to take I'll take my hat off at some point, but it's not like you know what it is, William? It's like, I don't wear a mask. I just hold a mirror. And some people may find it uncomfortable because some people have certain things that is regressed. So the activation helps the process of healing as well. And it brings things which is within us, cells, which through traumas. I don't mean just this life. If you're open-minded, previous incarnations as well, things would just surface. And then you'll understand the essence of your unique spiritual evolution. So, sorry, I hope it wasn't too much of a definition, but I don't want to define it. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to find balance between the black and white and the sweet and sour. I don't want to try to define. It's not my job to define it. It's what you get out of it, if that makes sense.
It does. A couple of things that I noticed from what you shared is it reminds me of something that Rick Jewers and Lee Mudders would say about GPMS as well. It's not about the name. It's really not, because it can be changed, it can be modified, it can be transformed. So that was one thing I noticed that was sort of common, and I noticed it right away when you were starting to answer the question. But then I also, you said something else that kind of tweaked within me, and I always look for those little tweaks, whatever is said that somehow hits me in a way that kind of wakes me up or brings a loud thought into my head. And what you were saying was, it's not like you're selling something. And the funny thing is, when I was first invited to the group, when I saw bioactivator, that's the first thing I thought of. Oh, Baret's want me to sign up because he's going to be selling some kind of machine that you hook yourself up to, where you change your frequencies or whatever. And I thought, I wish my friends would stop sending me stuff to endorse for them. And I realized as you were sharing that, I immediately labeled it. I just saw the name, and I immediately.
That's why. Yeah. I mean, there's always. Do you know? One time I was in a health food shop, and I could feel the distress signals of a certain individual, and I have a weakness for people when they're in pain. I just want to be of service immediately. And I said, I think I know what's happening with you, and I can do something that's going to help. So I did a bit of my Pai de la Jin, which is I work with the meridians and start tapping on the pressure points. He felt so good. Then we started talking, blah, 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 blah. Then he had this massive complex attack. He thought, am I trying to sell a service to him? And he thought, you're bloody good, so I might not be able to afford you. But listen to this. I did one better. I said, by the way, you can chill out, relax. I said, I'm not, even if I was to be of, you couldn't put a price on it. I'm not going to charge you anything. I said, I'd invite you to my farm. You could spend a whole day and I could do other things to you that you will enjoy, and you'll enjoy the farm and blah, blah, blah. And he said, how much is that going to cost me? And I said, absolutely free. And he ran for his life. So he got to the point where he thought he's pretty good, so he's going to be expensive. Then he realized, I'm not going to charge money. It kind of scared him off. So it's like you've got to find a balance, because people do have phobias and all sorts of complexes, and I understand that, and I don't take it personally. If someone says whatever they want to me, I'm cool about that. I know a lot of not so nice things have been said about me in the past, especially the last 1 year, because change is not for everybody. Especially the kind of change we're talking about. But some people are so attached to their whatever you want to call it. So and it's crumbling. Those pillars that we're holding. I'm surprised it's still standing. To be honest with you, I think it's just that we're not far away from this incredible, phenomenal change. I see that Randy's smiling as always.
He's comfortable now, and in his quarters, I think, in his second home.
Yeah, there you go. Oh gosh, well, I'm loving every moment of this. Of course, I knew I would, and I'm glad to be back on social media after a little bit of a hiatus. But I bio deactivated about 2 weeks ago. I pulled a muscle in my back, and biologically speaking, it was painful. So I went through a couple of weeks where I just even got worse because my sciatic nerve got kicked in, and holy doodles, if you guys know what that does, it's like a toothache or something, it's just, and you never know when it's going to hit you, just boom.
Yeah, no.
But today was the first day I've been able to just stroll downtown. So I thought I got to get out and get some sunshine and roll. But it brings to mind what you're talking about, and bioactivator. Okay, so bio being life or biological life or natural life, rather than techno-activator, which would have put some things on your body, like William was saying, and give you a little lobotomy or something, but bio is reminded me of something that we talked about. And again, these are all just words, guys. And that's how we're trying to communicate with people, is using our words without putting a spell on anybody, like with some distractive words or some deceptive or, deceiving words. It's just authentic words that we're using. So one of the words that we came up with a while back was that DNA, which is natural, obviously, it was the divine natural activation. Okay. And, it reminded me of when you were talking about bioactivator, like it's the same thing. It's just getting into that harmony and not leaving it. You know, I talk about it in terms of words like heaven, like I live in heaven and I'm not going back to hell. And hell being a deceptive word spell group of words that, you know, just kind of keeps people in a daze. So the authenticity of your you know, introduction to bioactivator is just super, Baret, and I love it. And you know, we needed to be here today because there's a lot of things that have been developing lately, and I'm not talking about political. I'm not talking about banking. I'm not talking about anything. I'm talking about the development and the harmonization of humanity, which is happening due to the infiltration of our love into every system. And when we can infiltrate each system, whether that be political, banking systems, you know, health systems, whatever you want to, whatever you are dealing with as an individual, and I'm speaking to our audience now, not so much Baron and William, but whatever you as an individual are involved in, bring even more love, bring even more kindness and sharing, and words like what I'm bringing into the banking industry that I wrote down and I shared with the bankers that I deal with, from Singapore to Hong Kong to Delhi to Brasilia, Brazil to London. And I'm serious. This is what I do. And everybody knows that, but yet, okay, I haven't seen anything yet. Well, that's fine. But I bring these words, and it's more about what we can do within whatever construct we're involved in, which is the only limitation we have, okay? We as physical beings cannot look after all of these systems. Not one of us, you know, as much as George Bush wanted to try, and he said to his audience, you could never handle the truth. He was right. We've seen that in the last couple of years. People can't handle the truth. They run back to the government. They run back to something else when we are sitting here telling the truth about love and how to infiltrate systems and then bring love to it. So the three words that I chose, and then I'll pass it on again, to bring to my banking group this week was all we really need to do with this banking system. It doesn't have to be dissolved. It doesn't. We need an administration of some kind, and it's there. So let's use it. But we need to bring in thoughts, okay? Thoughts of abundance versus lack and limitation. Number one, because there is no lack and limitation. The banking system, and whether it be accounts or the credit system, is full. It's abundant. It's infinite. It's not even just abundant, it's infinite. So that's the first thing we bring in. And then instead of thinking of money in terms of survival, in terms of power, in terms of prosperity, all we need to do is change three words to comfort, creativity, and sharing. And when you do that and love the system itself, then we can just move forward. And that's what we're doing. Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah. Randall took notes. He brought notes with him today. I love it. Some keywords you wanted to share, and actually that opens up the door for some things that I want to talk about too, because I was thinking about this call yesterday. Actually, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about the call, then I let it go, and then I was thinking about my current situation, and then it brought up some thoughts which looped back to this call today. So this is what I was noticing. For the last few months, like I was telling Randall in a call last week, right after I talked to Baret on Facebook, actually, Randall was asking me, how's it going? Because it had been a while since we had been in communication. And I basically said, you know, I feel like I'm in the passenger seat. I feel like the universe is kind of showing me what to do next and where to go and how to, you know, it's just saying, just sit back and just be with me. Just, you know, let me lead the way. And I thought that was, you know, quite amazing in and of itself. There's been a lot more it's been a lot of hurry up and go kind of energy. Like I see things I want to do and I want to do a whole bunch of things, and then circumstances say, nope, you have to sit back now and let it sit for a while and do its thing. And, it'll come up when it's ready, and that it didn't look like it in that present moment as it was happening, but in retrospect, looking back at it, that's really how it looked and how it felt in looking at that. And now in the last couple of days, I've been sort of feeling like there's a new wave of opportunity coming in one of my other two businesses. And I'm feeling differently about it. And so, I'm in an inquiring state, like I think the word would be inquisition, sort of feeling like, well, how am I going to be with this now? Because I was very much thinking, sort of in line with what Randall was just sharing, is there's another shift going on, at least for me, and it sounds like not just for me, but for a whole bunch of people, including what Randy's doing in his businesses, if I can call it business. And that is, as I was meditating last night, which was the first time in a long time, I was thinking, well, how can I, like, I'm in this business right now, I'll call it the Amazon business. How am I in this business right now under, and there's this energy and environment that I've grown into that is, always try to outdo your opponent, your competitor. And makes it feel like your competitor is an opponent. It's not conducive to working together. It's more of, competitiveness and even a combativeness of sorts, and a winner and a loser and all that kind of thing. And I'm going, I actually feel energetically tired of playing in that game, in that world. And what came to my thoughts yesterday, because I feel like it's just a lot of different thoughts coming in, but I was curious because Baret said something to me last week where he said he had been in the entrepreneurial world himself and had been quite successful with some of his ventures. And I remember, Randall, you were in the cattle industry and you were raising beef, and you hope to go back to it in the future as well. And it got me thinking, the last few months, like in September, I was driven to kind of get back on the horse because I got some funds from a source that was willing to give me funding, which I really needed. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to really make my business go, and I'm going to, make lots of money. And I honestly wanted to make lots of money. That was the focus. That was what I wanted to do. Whereas in the last few days, the feeling of making lots of money doesn't have the same energy about it anymore. And it's not about winning, especially with all the talk of GPMS and Gesara Nasara and all these kinds of things where the world of money, the world of finance could see a very, very big change and just a different way of how we do things. It just made me feel as though I'm sort of in this middle zone of transitioning from the old into something that's new. And it's at this moment for me, it feels like a confusing place. So just to wrap that mess up, I just wanted to put it forward to both of you to see if there's anything there that you can say or talk to about how would doing business be different for you in your own environments based on what you've done in the past. Perhaps if you were to do it again now, how would it be different? What would you do differently? How would you perceive it? Or would there be anything different because maybe you were very conscious even then when you were working in those businesses? So I'm not sure if anyone wants to jump in specifically, but I'll put it out. I guess I'll pass it to Baret because Randall just talked before me, and just to give Baret a chance. And then Randall, if you have anything you want to add, by all means.
Okay, I mean, I can give you my take. I think for me personally, real energy has always been energy. and when you're very energized within yourself, and the the, the very fabric of what bioactivator is understanding the essence of why you open your eyes every day. Because if you don't understand the meaning behind whether it's a struggle or whatever it is you're defining, the purpose of you opening your eyes, then it's just a circle. It's just things just go around in circle. So with the help of the bioactivator, it helps you to understand that the real currency is energy. Because I can tell you that I walk the path from the perspective of I'm leaving a marker, an impression, and I'm working on unconditional love. So when I raise the frequency of a particular place or a situation or an individual, they can't do enough for me. And they say, like my neighbor recently, I just went out there and I helped her. She was in need. I went there. I didn't go there to profit. I actually went there. And you might say, well, you're in a bit of a comfortable position, but no one gave me handouts. I had to earn through struggle. And, you know, the old Protestant ethic, life without a struggle is meaningless. You got to understand the meaning of struggle. For me, the greatest struggle, a universal struggle, is not understanding the essence of your own spiritual evolution. So when you open your real eyes and see and feel the pain of another being, she's not in the position, my neighbor, to afford, she's not doing financially well. So I just went there to lift her and be of service. And she bought me some drinks. I said, please don't. So when I'm in combating people, I'm pushing it away. I don't want to be rewarded. I don't operate from ego. I don't need to, so there are many characteristic things coming together whereby the practices of how I'm operating, people don't feel that I'm after something in terms of money, but they're offering it. They're offering enough other terms, or they're giving me oranges or whatever. But I don't really want anything. I'm so blessed to be in a situation where I understand the meaning behind the struggle, and I understand the holographic universe, how it all works, and we are infinite beings having a human experience. So I understand all these things, the mechanics of how it works. So I thought want to create a platform where we can share that. And I think Randall mentioned the word share. Most people don't know the meaning of sharing, because it's not handouts, I call it. It's the greatest gift you can give anybody is your presence, to be 100% present. Most people are not very present because they don't like who they are. They're either living in the future version or past version. But when you're comfortable in your being, and you've dealt and you've healed, and you understand the essence of your evolution, you're leaving incredible markers. So that's the kind of things that I can bring. We're all bringing amazing jewels to the table, but that's what I can bring from the bioactivation point of view. And it's not teaching, it's just remembering the essence of who we really are, because we lost our way a little bit. And now we're coming into alignment, that where Randy put it earlier. And I feel so much alive at the moment. And I do have my little pockets where I thought I had a banking issue. I think I told Randy. And I don't want to be ugly. I don't want to. The temptation is always there. They've tried to criminalize me. They've tried to blacklist me. The banks tried all sorts of things. And I'm praying every day, why are you doing it? Because I'm none of the above. And they've been trying to terrorize. And the way, from an empathetic point of view, and what Randy said as well, I think a lot of people are in positions of power, but they're not conscious of what's the sole purpose of their journey. I mean, what's it about, ladies and gentlemen? Where is your destination? I mean, if personally myself, with the bioactivation, if someone put a gun to my head and said, do the impossible and define the word perfection, I would say it has no destination. So we're constantly evolving to a higher perspective, and it will always remain a journey. And I don't want to define what love is. And if anyone does, it's because they're glorifying whether it's spirituality or whatever. You don't need to glorify anything. It's the energy. So for me personally, the real currency is energy and energizing situations. It could be a seed, it could be an animal, a plant, a human, a tree. I mean, Randall, I mean, evoked me a lot in the last couple of months, a year or so. I mean, he walks in, he brings that whole spectrum of, the way he brings envelopes the nature thing is just marvelous. It's just it's our non-biological mother, and it's important to connect to that. Sorry, I don't want to say I don't want to steal the show, but that's where I'm resonating from. That's where I'm coming from. And you know very, yeah. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Randy.
Sure. That was beautiful. And I mean, we're connecting to what I call the mind of God when we speak now. So when we speak from the heart in that loving manner that you just spoke from, some people will refer to words like channeling or whatever, but to me, it's that bioactivation with the mind of God, which is unconditional love. And that's basically all it is to me anymore. I'm not an atheist by any means. And when you find that unconditional love harmony, then miracles happen that you go, where the hell did that come from? So if you want to put that out there and say that was God, well, fine, you can do whatever you want. But my life in general has been heavenly for a long, long time, and especially since July. And I'm gonna say it in public. I fell in love back then, and I mean, even had a little bit of a strange last couple of weeks because as the masculine, I should be the one going after the feminine, right? Well, my Kelly Joe said, well, I'm coming up there first. I got the capability to do it, and I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do with that as a masculine? Well, maybe you should just receive, and for a change, and just receive her and let her come. So she came up, and oh my God, you guys, like it was just so precious to meet someone who thinks like you and I and William do, Baret, and in a female earth suit, like she's just incredible woman. And for the last 2 weeks, I had to do some receiving because my back was sore, and she was there to, put her hands on me and give me a little bit of back rub here and there and stuff. And I'm like, holy shit, this is, like, so it's, I'm getting a little distracted. I mean, obviously it was a wonderful time for both of us. And we're, had a little sad day when she went home the other day, but we're together. Well, I mean, this modality, Facebook or whatever, lets us talk every day, eye to eye, so it's fine. And that leads to the idea, and a couple of words that I read in a book one time that I'm reverting to your explanation now, Baret, of perfection and our continual evolution as a species, which is perfection moving towards completion. But there's no completion because it's always perfect. You just keep circling it around and thinking that way. There'll always be perfection moving towards completion. That's the way this realm, this heavenly space that we live in, was constructed. Perfect, moving towards completion. So, your question, William, about would I do something different? Well, I did when I landed in Manila, still in a capitalist mode, still thinking that, me and my partners in business would be able to kick this big business into gear and make some big money. And I ran into that little girl on the street. The story is, pretty familiar to William when I looked at her and she asked me for money with her matted hair and her little yellow dress all tattered and torn. And I sat down on the street and cried. And I said to myself, okay, from a monetary sense, now I'm going to think in terms of receiving and sharing. And when we think that way, it pops us out of that capitalist entrepreneurial mode into that divinely activated, bioactivated position of pure unconditional love. So I guess that hopefully answers your question, William. I do want to make another kind of comment on my chosen words to speak about God or the mind of God and the children of God and things like that, which may sound like a Christian bent or whatever, and I don't mind that. Like a lot of the people I deal with have that basis in their belief systems, which is all where any of us are living in, whether it's monetary or what. It's still a belief system, a story, a human construct. But when I say things like that, I don't want to exclude Muslims or Buddhists or, any other organization that doesn't use that. Most of them use the word God or the mind of God and children of God. So but the one thing I said, and Kelly Jo and I actually went on a connecting consciousness group from Iowa, invited us to speak together. And we're probably going to do more of those things together because she reflects and resonates with everything I say and me with her. So I think it's going to be helpful for us to do these videos together with people. But I said to these people, because they were pretty much all Christian based people, and I said, you're all kind of, I ascended to the state of knowing that I am is God. So in other words, you are God. And when you say that, and when you think in terms of being God, then how can we drop back into a dualistic mentality of imperfection and incompleteness? Incomplete. We can't. And how can we fall back into the duality mentality of evil and good, or good guys and bad guys? We can't. Because it's impossible for you as God to not love every child of God, which is every human being, whether that be Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Zelensky or Putin. It doesn't matter. If you are God, which self-realization tells you you are, which bioactivation or direct natural activation tells you you are, then you can't go back there. Otherwise, you're dropping into hell. Stay in heaven and just be God and love every child of God and see what happens, because you'll see miracles just unfold in front of you that you would have never believed. And I see them every day. So I just wanted to add that little bit.
That's beautiful, Randy. Can I just throw one thing quickly? My definition, if I was to define something like the word enlightenment, my take on that is when I lock eyes with a so-called stranger, because we're not strangers really, but let's just play the devil's advocate, so to speak. What do I see? I see myself. So on reflection, what's happening from within, when my cells are brought into union and harmonized, so I'm treating everybody on the surface of things the way I treat myself. And that is key. Because people, sorry to say, I don't want to apologize, but people are not stupid. They're not born stupid. And I don't see, I don't see, even when I'm pretty good with people who are very emotionally unstable, because I don't see them unstable at all. It's incredible. So the minute you negate, the minute you start labeling, they are not, because somebody said they're very emotionally unstable, your eyes are sort of glued to that. I don't see it that way. I mean, I'm sometimes in situations where someone's suicidal and I'm like, really? Why? What's the problem? So I'm just trying to help them simplify something that maybe they were led astray. Maybe it's not just in the DNA. Maybe when we talk about nature and nurture, maybe some aspect of nurture when a little bit wrong in terms, well, what's right or wrong, but in terms of them being in a position where they can't handle the truth or they can't handle reality. They're not comfortable. So I'm like, really? And I think the best medicine is, and that's the hallmark of myself through bioactivation. I try and tickle them, try and make them laugh it off. Don't take it so seriously. And tell you the truth, I'm sometimes, I don't want to use the word guilty, but I fall into little pockets occasionally. I phoned Randy just yesterday. I said, the bank is teasing me again. Or this so-and-so, we do get, and whenever I get triggered, I see, wow, I'm going to learn something. It's something huge because they're representing an aspect of you that's a bit hollow. So just take deep breaths. Don't take it seriously. Observe, and then just, every action doesn't necessarily need a reaction like you have to shout or scream your head off or throw eggs at people or whatever. You can just do what Randy does. He just walks and smiles. And he does it. So I don't know a person on the planet. I'm just a big fan of you, Randy. I just think, I know you're doing it consciously and super consciously because you do it so well. And I'm just so, when I first saw you on Charlie Ward, of all places, I thought, I wonder if you will get in touch with me. I mean, Charlie interviewed quite a few, like David Ikes and blah, blah. But you're the jackpot for me, Randy. Just I would not choose a better company, and of course, William, I would not choose a better company right now than you guys. If Sasha's listening, he's okay, but for me, I just love what you're doing. You simplify everything, and that's the name of the game because there's so much toxicity everywhere you turn. So when you smile, it's contagious. It does wonders. You go into toxic places and you just smile at people and say, hey guys, chill out. Just learn to chill out a bit, and then the rat race mentality. This is my favorite slogan. When you win the rat race, you're still a rat. So you've got to come out that box, that rat race mentality. Why everyone's in a rush? I don't know where they're going. Where is it that, what is the ultimate goal? So that's why I thought, let's do a bit of bioactivation here because, when you activate people, they don't have to prove their credentials. We don't need titles. We don't need certificates and diplomas because we've moved away from that herd mentality, haven't we? So, and I love the herd mentality. I don't have nothing against the herd mentality because what brings equilibrium is two opposing polarities. That's what's creating the fusion. So in order to understand the essence of something, to know sweet, we have to experience sour. But then you bring it into order. That's the name of the game, I think.
I wanted to comment quick. Sorry, William, but I'll try and make this quick. The idea of certification or titles or whatever. Okay. So when you get as deep into this banking and papal, patriarchal, possessive paper bullshit story that I'm involved in, there is those titles. Okay. Yeah. And there is a progression of patriarchal possessive paper, right? So what I've done with that, rather than say we don't need it anymore, it's like, okay, what can we do with that? How can we work with the people that still believe that it's just a story, but they still believe it? How can we work with those people to benefit society, to give comfort to every child of God, and to bring project funding for every project that's good for everyone and everything every day? So this is what I've done with that, is to just say, how can we work with, rather than just drop it and, say that it's going to fall apart. It is going to fall apart because we are progressing and we're moving forward perfectly towards completion. But at the same time, let's work with it. And that's what I've always said. And I know I've got 120 views now because people can't grasp that and can't grasp the idea that obviously okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, like, when we cross-reference the word, let's say, government or president, can we replace that with something like mentorship? Because my gut feeling says that when we talk about frequencies, when you're in a position, you're not leading in the sense that you're controlling people, because when there is that, for me, what 0 point represents is you've made peace with the past and there's no real future, there's only the present. And so when you're anchored to that 0 point where there's all those timelines, they've collapsed, a bit like in the film The Matrix, and then you just very, very present, and then people already feel uplifted because you're not pretending, you don't have a mask, you're not trying to sell anything, you're not operating from ego. So you understand the symbiotic connection. You see, even with the non-visible beings as well, for me, I do have a connection with them. And when we talk about angelic, non-angelic, yeah, I mean, the whole purpose of a non-angelic being is to become an angelic being. Their perspective is that. And I do get shady characters occasionally coming within my temple, and I feel its presence, and I work with it. I don't try to kill it. A non-angelic being does not practice in killing, but it's not for me to say this is right, this is wrong. If its time is to grow a little bit higher, then it will use your frequency to grow. So, because the real us is not the fictional character we've been indoctrinated in. We are certain unique frequencies, and we are vibrating that all the time. So some will pay attention, some won't. And those that don't pay attention, it's perfect. And if some do, it's perfect. That's perfection. It's a journey. And if your destination is that level, then you're interpreting on that frequency, and that's perfect right now. And then that might become obsolete over a rolling period of time, and then you will grow, because I see it from an expansive point of view, that the universe is expanding. It's not static. It's not staying. It's expanding from the universe, omniverse, multiverse. So to be omnipresent is the name of the game, and the only way you can be omni is to really be in that solitude, that calmness, that stillness, and to have that soul connection, and to drop obviously the fictional character, and to know that it's just a game, and enjoy the ride, but leave these wonderful markers, and see how quickly humanity will uplift itself. Because that's the name, that's what's working for me, and I'm sure Randy and William, and I'm just sharing the formulas that is holding me in good stead with not just people, plants, animals alike. So just sharing the magic, brothers and sisters.
William, I want to ask William a question. Like Kelly Jo said to me when she was up here, one of the things that you mentioned, that I simplified things, and I like the simple things, like the phrase that I've said over and over again of Oliver Wendell Holmes that says, I couldn't give a fig for the simplicity on the near side of complexity, but I'll give my life for the simplicity on the far side of complexity. But the thing that Kelly Jo said was, and I want to ask you this because I know you've lived this kind of a life, William, and that is, well, we left it better than we found it. And it's such a simple phrase, but it's stewardship or mentorship was what brought that to mind when you brought up that word. So can you speak a little bit about where you got that from, William? Because you got it, and you always leave things better than when you find them. I see it every day.
Wow. I don't even know how to address that question, actually, but I'll speak in a general manner about what I've heard just in the last few minutes from the two of you, and I think it ties into your question, actually, Randall. As I was listening to Baret, especially, I was getting in touch with certain feelings that I was having. And the feelings I was having was feelings of shame. I was feeling like I just noticed thoughts like, wow, how did I get in the company of such aware beings? You know, why am I so fortunate to be connected to the two of you and people like Lee and Hamid and you know, Kelly Joe and all these different people that are in our worlds. And you know, I've noticed that I've always had a tendency to look at what the so-called, as per my ego mind, what the flaws are, what's not right, what doesn't work, you know, that kind of thing. And so I noticed that for me, I have a lot of thoughts that I grab onto that is about not feeling adequate or not feeling good enough or those kinds of things. I even thought about when my niece and nephew were younger, and they were such wonderful children. I mean, they were calm and present and loving. And most of all that I noticed that I was in touch with is they were giving. They would do little works of art and then they would give it to me freely. Like, this is for you. I still, my nephew, who's now in grade 11, made me something back in grade 4, I think, and gave it to me when I left Red Deer, where I was living with them. And I still have it posted on my wall. And it's just always been there. And I just look at it every once in a while and it gives me joy. And there's something about that innocence. And I find that when I get myself caught up in the thoughts and feelings of, oh, I'm not a giver, I don't know what giving is like, I have a preconceived idea what giving is supposed to be like, and I'm not it, or I'm not doing it, and then I get self-critical and these feelings come up and all of these kinds of things. And I think one of the gifts that I've overlooked and started to notice now in being connected to you folks, for me, is the place of observation. It's coming from a place of observation without necessarily attaching anything to it, even though I definitely see myself, you know, adding labels to things, judging things, having those thoughts in my head, in my mind. What I'm becoming more and more in touch with now is that I don't necessarily say that those thoughts are me, or that because I have those thoughts that somehow I am a bad person. I'm now starting to separate myself from that in a feeling way, not just in a mental way, but in a feeling way, such that I can observe them more, notice them. I might still have a feeling or two about them, but be able to more and more step back from that and not integrate it as a reality for me. So I think, tying it back to Randall's question, the way I understand it is, I think, at least for me, what I think a gift that I have, or a blessing that I have, and I think Lee touched on it in our last recorded call that we put on the TAO channel, which is the video before this one, if this one goes live, or goes on the channel, is that he said, you're so wonderfully neutral. And to me, you know, you could say, oh, that is, what an awful thing to say. You could look at it that way and say, okay, well, neutral could be bland, or it could be, you know, you don't have an opinion, or you don't have a stand, you're not strong, or all those kinds of, you know, negative attributes. But to me, I recognized that it was far from, you know, a derogatory comment or a criticism. In fact, it was a compliment. And I got the compliment. The compliment was that even though I may not understand something, or I may not see something in its fullest form, and even though I have thoughts and judgments and labels and things floating around in my sphere, in my mental sphere, that even though I have that, I can still say I am not in full adoption and belief of those thoughts, and I can see this neutrally. And so I've always come from I won't say always, but I feel like more and more I am coming from a place of observation, like a place of seeing it and not labeling it, even if I have labels rolling around in my head. I'm just saying, okay, I don't fully comprehend this. I don't necessarily even resonate with it. But at the same time, I'm not going to dismiss it based on some arbitrary thoughts where I'm making myself the judge and ruler of everything. You know, let me just see and say, okay, I don't know what the truth is. Let's just put this on, you know, and try it out and see if it's okay. And I also find myself very often, which I do love about myself actually, is I look at or I do my best to put myself in the other person's shoes, put myself in their energy and say, okay, where are they coming from? What could that possibly be? It used to drive my last girlfriend nuts because she said, you're always defending the other guy. I mean, I'm mad at that person. You're always defending them. Why are you never defending me? And the truth is, yeah, maybe I was defending, but the intention wasn't about defense. It was about looking at it from outside of me, from their perspective, as best as I could connect to that. And so I think there's room for more of that for people to adopt and bring into their lives, is saying, okay, you know what, I might have a certain opinion or feeling about something, and the person I'm talking to that's right in front of me here in the physical realm may have a completely different viewpoint or completely different understanding. But it's okay. It's okay. Just because it doesn't match mine doesn't mean they're wrong, they're bad, or they have to adopt my feelings or attitudes or approaches. Even if it doesn't feel comfortable for me, it doesn't mean I have to take it on, but it doesn't mean I have to tear it down. So that's that neutrality that I think I was getting from what Lee's comment was saying. And I think that more of that is needed. And I think empaths do that quite well generally. But I think that there's always more room for that in the world. So I don't know if that addresses what you said, you know, you were looking for, Randall, but to me, it's about that neutrality. It's about seeing things and putting myself in other shoes. You know, I know that there are times, for example, this is a bit of an example, that sometimes people will leave your channel because you make strong comments about Donald Trump. And you know what? I love Donald Trump. And I there are things I love about him. There are things I don't understand about him. There's a lot, and I also know there's a lot of things going on in Donald Trump's world that I have no clue about. And a lot of people don't have clues about, but everyone has their own perspective on it. So I come more from a place of, you know, let's just observe, let's just see and watch things unfold. And I step back from, you know, even calling him anything. You know, it's just like there's things I like about him, there's things I don't like about him. But you know what? I'm there's something about him that interests me, so I follow what he's up to. And that's not saying that what you do is wrong. It's different than how I do it, but it's just different. It's not right or wrong. It's just different. So I think that's the way I approach life is, you know, like when I first reached out to Randall, I've shared this story a few times, but I felt like I was reaching out to celebrities. So when you contacted me back and said, well, let's connect, I'm going, whoa, I'm going to meet someone special today, you know?
I feel the same way.
I haven't seen myself in the same light as I see people outside of me who are very conscious. And so I think my processes right now is kind of like my personal awakening to bring me to a new level and a new respect and a new self-love for myself. So I'll leave it at that. Baret, I cut you off. I know you wanted to say.
No. I felt the same way. I thought, I wonder if he'll get back to me, you know, because you do, Randy. You do have an incredible presence, and for me, you just make the others. Not that you're competing, but you just make the other ones look a bit artificial, shall we say? You know, I think you're the raw deal, and I'm your, yeah. I don't want to even define you, brother. You're just so incredible, you know. But I was gonna just throw quickly something. I picked up a few things while you were talking there, William. I just wanted to throw this one in. For me, the most rewarding feeling is to feel the pain of another being. And if you're going to raise the vibration, you can only feel it 100% when you're authentic. And for me, authenticity is not for reward. It's not for me. It's not about what I can gain. I'm not in the position of sucking anyone's energy. I'm not a vampire. I've got nothing against vampires, but it's not my cup of tea.
They suck.
No, but they yeah. Well, I'm saying they're doing an important role as well. I don't mean just sucking. I mean that you know we do need all these incredible characters in the pantomime. We do because no two beings are the same. Because everybody needs something different, and the taking and giving. You know, it's really interesting. But for me, you know, when you do feel the pain of someone and you're very present and it's not magical or mystical. It's just when you touch that part of them, a non-physical touch, they feel a sigh of relief that someone cares. And they're like, they give you that stare. I didn't know that somebody could feel my pain, you know. It's like, and it just alleviates that pressure. And then they find comfort, and then they regain strength and they move on, and that's the name of the game. And that's for me is another call for having that bio activator in place. And it's not mine, by the way. The other thing, as you get to know me better, I don't own anything, by the way. Okay. And I get more when I don't try to own anything. It's the name of the game is sharing, whether it's space, whether it's energy, whether it's like, you know, and it's all about having a certain feeling, because with that feeling, when you get energized, you go then have an experience. And I think one of our, you know, soul's purpose is to grow, and it's using a physical vessel, and the real currency is the merit, the spiritual merit that you use, and you get tokens, you know, for doing. You exchange it later on for another experience. But I just make my that's my simplicity of understanding the evolution and the revolution, how things work together. And I just think, you know, both of you, you know, William, again, sorry, but I just love being here. The presence is beautiful, God defining moment.
Well, I think I wanted to say that William did answer my question because he started it off by talking about his nephew. And, you know, we had this beautiful lady with us last year, still about this time, Ida Siviera, who talked all about everything is trauma, or I think her title was Everything Trauma. But when you grow up in a loving environment like William did, you can't help but feel that love is the right way, right? And I mean, I grew up with that. My mother and father loved me to pieces too. Kelly Joe, same thing. She's got a beautiful, you know, untraumatic, non-traumatic upbringing. So when we fall into a traumatic experience, or we fall for it, let's put it that way, because nothing is really traumatic if we think in terms of perfection. But if we fall for that traumatic experience and suffer, then we are challenged to move back out of it because the programming is there. I watched this, I want to just share a cute little 1950s movie, and this is what I do. I don't watch anything technical. I just you know, if I'm going to turn on the television, it's Charlie Chaplin or something, you know, like maybe a little bit of Seinfeld, but you know, this silly, not silly, this movie from the 1950s. And it starts off with this little boy who's pure at heart. Okay. He's out in the woods with the bunny rabbits and the squirrels, and he's wandering around in this heavenly world that he lives in. Had to sneak out the door with his shoes off so his mother wouldn't see him. And then his, you know, it shows an evolution of his life with his mother, because his father died in a fire accident. He was battling a fire in the woods and tree fell on him. And then this other man came into their life, right? And eventually married the little boy's mother. But this man had a traumatic experience of losing his wife. So when the little boy got to the stage, it won't take long. I think you'll see some merit in this. But when he got to the stage of the man showing him how to kill an animal for food, the little boy he fainted. He couldn't handle it. Like it was trauma for him, right? So then he got angry with the man, and it got to a point where he had a pitchfork up in the hayloft and he was going to throw it at this man because he couldn't handle him anymore. He hated him. Then it switched again where the man saved his life, saved the little boy's life. Then the little boy had an opportunity to save the man's life, and he did it. And it ended with this beautiful transition from traumatic experiences to the love that was in each of those actors in this little movie's parts, right? So, you know, I don't know if that really made a lot of sense, but I want to bring that back to actors again and say, from the mind of God, which I am and which you are, and if we consider everyone in our reality part of our story, part of our myth story, my story, then, you know, the idea, like William said, I've said some pretty derogatory things about some politicians being morons, which is just foolish. Well, from the mind of God, I'll say that I love those people, and I feel empathy for them for having to play out non-authentic roles. And that's what they're doing. They're not playing authentic roles in the public. If Donald Trump would come clean and say, I got my money through credit and I just had to pay an administration fee to get it. So, you know, those of you who think I'm a real estate genius, I'm sorry. Like, you know, like I'm really not. Or if Elon Musk, who does the same thing, gets credit for ridiculous things like electric cars or some driving around in space with some vehicles. Like, really, these are actors in front of us to portray this narrative of, you know, inauthenticity. So all I can do is love them and want them to be free, to be authentic, to be able to come on live public media and say something that's from their heart, not a narrated story about how they got their money. Because to me, that's where the basis is, right? Because Elon Musk could not do what he does without money. He doesn't make it from selling cars. Like, people that think that are just lost in capitalist mindset. Donald Trump did not make his money from trading real estate. So to me, the authenticity that I'm bringing to you is that, you know, that truth that these characters, these players are not authentic. And if you like what they're doing, that's fine. You know, follow their story, that's fine. I have no problem with that. And there's billions of people that do, and billions that still need that, because they're, for whatever reason, their bioactivation or their direct natural activation with God's source or the mind of God is not quite there, or it kind of comes and goes, you know? So, you know, do I mind having 120 views? No. Like William said, somebody's going to get something from this, and somebody will. It's a long video. We haven't had a video this long in a long time, William. But I think there's little bits and pieces in here that are just gems. And gems from you, William, as far as exposing that love that came into you from your family, and that willingness now to leave something better rather than judge it, just to continue to leave it better than when you found it, which is why I love you so much, William. We'll always, continue to do these kind of things together, because you're just priceless, brother. You're my hero. Like, seriously.
Thank you both. I think might be a good time to do last words for this particular recording, anyways, and we'll just have to do it again real soon, I think. So,
Sounds
Baret,
great.
any thoughts to kind of wrap up anything that has come up today, or anything Randall just said or I said that you'd like to kind of conclude the call with for
I
your?
just want to thank you guys and thank you, William, for bringing us together today, and we're just sharing this beautiful energy, and I just want to leave it with reference to Lee as well. I mean, I found him very, very interesting person. I felt his energy, his beautiful energy is remarkable. So I look forward to mingling with other like-minded souls in the foreseeable future. I leave it to your beautiful discretion when you feel it necessary. Do we need to bring more people to the table? I just leave it to you, William.
I'll interject real quick here, Baret, too. Just so you know, I did reach out to Lee in Telegram and shared your contact with him.
Okay.
Unfortunately, his contact wasn't shareable the other way, so I could only go one direction. But he did express to me his interest in connecting with you. Definitely, he knows of who you are, and I think he said that you were on a call once, but you maybe never had a chance to actually talk between the two of you very much.
Okay.
So, but yeah, he sounded very, very open and very intrigued to connecting with you, but obviously hasn't yet. So he's got some things obviously going for himself. But I wanted to throw that in there before we wrapped up.
Thank you very much, William. Thank you to both of you. Thank you. Really appreciate the connection.
Randall?
Well, I'll finish it off with some words, because that's, as Ida once again said, it starts with feelings, not with thoughts. So feelings beget thoughts, thoughts beget words, words beget destiny, destiny begets character. I might have missed one in there, but you know what I mean. And because I've been sharing these 6 words with the bankers and the royal family members that I continually communicate with on a daily basis, I want to just share them again. And let's think of money, or when we think of money, because we all do. There's nobody out there that's not in that world where they just cannot deal without it. Okay. You can deny it all you want, but it's the truth. Money is what makes the world go round. Okay. The world being the human construct, and we live in that human construct. So, whether it's a beautiful transmission from Paul White, Gold Eagle, which I listen to with Kelly now, beautiful stuff. And oftentimes Rick Jewers will have a little contribution in there, and some others. It doesn't matter who it is, Paul or Rick or whoever, they still need funds to eat their food and to pay for their room and board or have their comfort. So all of us have this deep rooted monetary basis in our lives that we can't deny. Okay. So when we think of money, let's just move from that thought of survival, power, or prosperity to comfort, creativity, and sharing. And I'll leave it with that, because it's just, to me, it's shifting our thoughts about money, and then watch the world unfold in the heavenly world that we're in now. And we're not going to go back. I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Thank you, Baret.
Thank you.